after this, that Absalom the son of David, having a beautiful sister, whose name was Tamar, Amnon the son of David loved her, and Amnon was so vexed that he fell sick for his sister Tamar, for she was a virgin, and it seemed difficult for Amnon to do the least thing to her. And Amnon had a friend whose name was Jonadab, the son of Shimeah, David's brother. And Jonadab was a very shrewd man. And he said to him, Why dost thou, the king's son, get thinner from morning to morning? Wilt thou not tell me? And Amnon said to him, I love Tamar, my brother Absalom's sister. And Jonadab said to him, Lay thee down on thy bed, and feign thyself sick. And when thy father comes to see thee, say to him, I pray thee, let my sister Tamar come, and give me food, and dress the food in my sight, that I may see it, and eat it from her hand. So Amnon lay down, and feigned himself sick. And the king came to see him. And Amnon said to the king, I pray thee, let Tamar my sister come, and make a couple of cakes in my sight, that I may eat from her hand. Verse 7. And David sent home to Tamar, saying, Go, I pray thee, to thy brother Amnon's house, and dress him food. And Tamar went to her brother Amnon's house, and he had lain down. And she took flour and kneaded it, and made cakes in his sight, and baked the cakes. And she took the pan and poured them out before him, but he refused to eat. And Amnon said, Put every man out from me. And they went out, every man from him. And Amnon said to Tamar, Bring the dish into the chamber, that I may eat of thy hand. And Tamar took the cakes that she had made, and brought them into the chamber to Amnon her brother. And she presented to him to eat. And he took hold of her, and said to her, Come, lie with me, my sister. And she said to him, No, my brother, do not humble me, for no such thing is done in Israel. Do not this infamy. And I, whither shall I carry my reproach? And thou wouldest be as one of the infamous in Israel. And now, I pray thee, speak to the king, for he will not withhold me from thee. But he would not hearken to her voice, and was stronger than she, and humbled her, and lay with her. Verse 15. And Amnon hated her with an exceeding great hatred. For the hatred with which he hated her was greater than the love with which he had loved her. And Amnon said to her, Arise, be gone. And she said to him, There is no cause for this evil in sending me away, which is greater than the other that thou didst to me. But he would not hearken to her. Then he called his young man that attended upon him, and said, Put now this woman out from me, and bolt the door after her. Now she had a vest of many colours upon her, for so were the king's daughters that were virgins apparelled. And his attendant brought her out, and bolted the door after her. And Tamar put ashes on her head, and rent her vest of many colours which was on her, and laid her hand on her head, and went away, crying out as she went. Verse 20. And Absalom her brother said to her, Has Amnon thy brother been with thee? And now, my sister, be still. He is thy brother. Take not this thing to heart. And Tamar remained, and that desolate, in her brother Absalom's house. And King David heard of all these things, and he was very angry. And Absalom spoke to Amnon neither good nor bad, for Absalom hated Amnon, because he had humbled his sister Tamar. Verse 23. And it came to pass after 2 full years, that Absalom had sheep shearers in Baal Hazor, which is beside Ephraim. And Absalom invited all the king's sons. And Absalom came to the king and said, Behold now, thy servant has sheep shearers. Let the king, I pray thee, and his servants go with thy servant. And the king said to Absalom, No, my son, let us not all go, lest we be burdensome to thee. And he urged him, but he would not go, and he blessed him. And Absalom said, If not, I pray thee, let my brother Amnon go with us. And the king said to him, Why should he go with thee? But Absalom pressed him, and he let Amnon and all the king's sons go with him. Verse 28. And Absalom commanded his servants, saying, Mark ye now, when Amnon's heart is merry with wine, if when I say to you, Smite Amnon, then slay him, fear not. Have not I commanded you? Be courageous and be valiant. And the servants of Absalom did to Amnon as Absalom had commanded. Then all the king's sons arose, and they rode each upon his mule, and fled.
And it came to pass, while they were in the way, that tidings came to David, saying, Absalom has smitten all the king's sons, and there is not one of them left. Then the king arose, and rent his garments, and lay on the earth, and all his servants stood by with their garments rent. And Jonadab, the son of Shimei, David's brother, answered, and said, Let not my lord suppose that they have slain all the young men, the king's sons, for Amnon only is dead. For by the appointment of Absalom this has been determined from the day that he humbled his sister Tamar. And now let not my lord the king take the thing to heart, to say, All the king's sons are dead, for Amnon only is dead. And Absalom fled. And the young man that watched lifted up his eyes, and looked, and behold, there came much people from the way behind him, from the hillside. And Jonadab said to the king, Behold, the king's sons come. As thy servant said, so it is. And as soon as he had ended speaking, behold, the king's sons came, and lifted up their voice, and wept. And the king also and all his servants wept very bitterly. And Absalom fled, and went to Talmai, the son of Ammihud, king of Geshur. And David mourned for his son every day. Now Absalom fled, and went to Geshur, and was there 3 years. And King David longed to go forth to Absalom, for he was comforted concerning Amnon, seeing he was dead.